Hi guys. Slightly unusual one this time for me. I've been asked to make a house sign and wants to be fairly quick and simple. So I've decided to plasma cut one out of a bit of plate. So I've printed this out on 4 sheets of A4 off the computer, obviously. Then cut it out, stuck it on and drew around it. And I've put the squiggles where the bits that have got to come out because, knowing my luck, I'll cut the wrong bits out. Right, so I've never done this before, cutting stuff with the plasma cutter or cutting letters out with the plasma cutter. I only basically generally use it for cutting straight lines with, cutting bits of plate up. So it's going to be all a bit hit and miss. So we can take this off here now. See if we can have a look, see what it's going to look like. I think that's probably defined enough. I've been over it a couple of times because I want to be able to see it when I'm cutting so I can follow the lines. Not sure about the font. Anyway, we'll see. This is what I'm going to use, my old trusty old plasma cutter. It's getting on a bit now, a few years old, although it's hardly been used. It cuts up to about 12mm, I think. It's got two settings, high and a low. I'm going to use it on the low setting today. I've just changed all the tips so they're all nice and clean, so we get a good sharp curve, hopefully. 3-phase. Obviously runs with compressed air from the compressor. So we're all set up, and what I'm going to do, which might surprise some of you, I'm going to actually wear some protective clothing. A lot of you will know I hate it, protective clothing, but in this case I'm going to wear it because this does get hot, and you'll see I've got a mask on because the plasma fumes are pretty nasty. This really ought to be done over water, but I don't have anything I can put it over. I don't even have an old 50-gallon drum I could put a bit of water in and run it over. So I'm just going to run it onto the floor, and as I say, I've got a mask on. I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. As I say, I've not done this before, cutting letters out, so I'm not used to following lines and cutting shapes. So I'm going to try and use my welding technique where you brace your hand and follow the lines, and that appears to have stopped. Yep, that's stopped. Now why is that? Oh, I know, silly arse. I forgot to turn the compressor on, and it's just been running with the air that's in the tank and it's dropped below pressure. So I need to stick the compressor on. I'm going to twiddle the thumbs for a minute while that builds up pressure, and what I'm doing now, I'm actually putting goggles on. Some dark cutting goggles, because when I normally use plasma cutter, you're not actually looking at the plasma stream, you're just following a line because I use it for cutting straight lines. But because I want to follow the letters, I actually need to be looking at the plasma stream, and it's very, very bright. It is a bit like watching oxyacetylene or anything like that. You don't want to be doing it without your goggles on. So that's why I've just stuck my goggles on, and that is much better. I can now follow the line much easier. It's interesting. It's difficult to know which way to go. It's all new to me, and I'm struggling a little bit to get to know whether to push, pull, or what, just to make the best lines. Because I don't want this to look like it's a bodged up machine made job. Yeah, I want it to look rough enough so that you can tell it's a handmade job, and it's supposed to look slightly rough. You see what I mean? But we'll see. I'm playing it by ear at the moment. just cutting out, trying to follow the lines, and I'm hoping that trying to follow the lines is going to be rough enough, sort of thing. We'll see. And again, I'm not quite sure which way to go. Push, pull, use the straight edge, don't use a straight edge. Oh, it's tricky. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. Come on, get your arse in gear. Get yourself figured out. Anyway, this is going to be pretty boring, so I think we'll speed this up a bit. Cue the Benny Hill music. Wouldn't it be lovely if you could work that speed? Now this clip, you might notice this particular scene isn't as clear and as crisp as my normal videos, and that's because when I imported it, it will not or would not import it with the sound. I tried all sorts. I deleted it, I ran it again, imported it again, would not bring the sound in. Yeah, I could run it on VLC as an individual clip and it had the sound perfectly. So what I did in the end was run it through another program, through Toast, and converted it to a different type of MPEG. And that's brought up the sound, but it's slightly less quality. But I just didn't know what else to do. I could not get it to work. And you'll see I keep taking that steady off, the rest. It's a good idea, but it's a pain in the neck sometimes when you're trying to see what you're doing, because it's just in the way. It's tricky to keep the tip off the job, but it's much easier without anything on there to see exactly where you're cutting. I think for this torch, I think it's an A80 or A81, something like that, they do longer tips. I'm not sure if that is the reason for it, so you can see what you're up to. I might try and get one, or some, try them out. I should have really got something with a shorter word to start this, to do this project. This is going to be boring the backside off a lot of you. I should have speeded it up a bit more, but I'm not used to speeding things up and I didn't really know how much to do it. I've done this 350% faster according to the tool, but it doesn't look that much faster. Anyway, we'll get there, and we're actually back on another clip, so you can see it's slightly better quality. So let's look from another angle. Now we're not looking into the daylight, you can probably see a bit better. What I'm doing is starting away from the line, obviously, so you don't get a sort of a blowhole on the line, and then move out to the line. So with these goggles on, it's much easier to see the line, not be blinded by the plasma light, or plasma stream, or whatever they call it, the arc. Because it's probably not the plasma stream, but it's the arc that's blinding me. And as you can see, I'm still not really sure what I'm doing. Trying to go as steady as I can. You can actually pull these plasma cutters on this thin stuff really quite quickly. I'm going slow and I've got it set on a low setting because I want to try and be accurate. But I'm beginning to wonder if I'm being too accurate. It's starting to look like a bodged up machine made job rather than a purposely shaky hand job. That didn't sound very good, did it? Anyway, let's speed this bit up and get this over with, because I think we'll probably be getting bored. Time for a swig of wine. Clear the throat. Excuse me. Yeah, this is definitely the way to do it with the goggles. And I must admit, this straight edge is dead handy when you want to do a nice little straight line. But is it going to be too good? Now that was a silly thing to do, wasn't it? I should have cut the hole out of the D before I cut the end off. But I didn't. So you can see I've got my sweater on that I've been shoeing in, so I've got a few hairs on there from the last horse I did. They're molting like mad at the moment. Come home absolutely covered. Right, so that should be all the plasma cutting done. Let's show you that. And yeah, I'm not too sure about that. It does look a little bit like a bodged up machine made job rather than a purposely shaky hand cut job. Anyway, I've got to take the slag off the back because there is quite a lot, more than I anticipated. Whether that's because I had it set on the lower setting, I don't know, but anyway, some of it will chip off with a chipping hammer, but the rest of it I'll whip off with the grinder and just smooth it out so that we've got something to key on with the paint. Right, I'm just going to whip over the front first. I've got just the ceramic flat disc on there. There's not too much slag on the front, but there's a few little spots and spurts, so we'll have them off. I was toying with the idea of doing a different font on this, because obviously I printed it all out on the computer, so I sort of previewed all the fonts, and I went over loads of them. There was dozens, and none that really grabbed me. Let's get started on the back here. I think this is going to actually take a lot longer than I want it to, but anyway. Yeah, so I was saying the fonts, and because I haven't done this before, cutting out words, I didn't know how accurate how accurately I was going to be able to plasma cut it. So I chose a fairly standard, basic, upright, squeaky font, because I thought the complicated ones were going to be much more difficult and much more chance of it going wrong. But actually, this has come out so well, in a way, I might have been better off choosing a slightly more complicated font that would have looked more hand cut, if you get my drift. Anyway, it's for a mate of mine, so I don't think it'll matter. And there we are, by the magic of video, I've almost done it all, because that was going to take forever. But like all my jobs, you know, stuff I haven't done before, I like to share with you stuff I'm doing for the first time. It's a learning curve, as life is itself. Every day's a school day, as they say, and we all learn something. So I shall know for next time. Choose something a little more complicated, because I will hopefully be better at it, which will make it look even more like a bodged up machine made job. I'll have to try doing it after a few pints the night before with a shaky hand. Right, so all that's left to do now, I think, is clean up in the middle of the letters. You probably can't see, but there are some sharp edges here that the grinder hasn't taken off. So the best way, I think, to tackle those is the air tool. air grinder. I think that's going to be the kiddie for this job. So let's see if I can find it. Dig it out from under the bench somewhere. Right, here we go. Another one of those tools I never thought I'd use, and now I've got one. I absolutely love it. Use it for all sorts of things. And the burrs are dirt cheap, really. And what I want to do is just go around it, and I'm using this particularly because I don't want it to be too smooth. I want to keep the roughness because it's come out quite smooth anyway. As you can see, I keep showing you, I don't want it to get any smoother, and I think if I use the sander, you can just about see the bits in there now, around the edges. If I used a sander, it would obviously make it a lot smoother. So using a burr is going to maintain the roughness with any luck. Let's whip that round. And will maintain the roughness but take off a lot of or all the scale hopefully, and all the sharp edges, and we'll all be happy. So I love these tools. They're I had to do a little job for a mate of mine the other day. He bought some new springs for a car he's rebuilding, and leaf springs, and the hole in the centre of them that they're all bolted together with, the wrong size for the bolts that were originally on the vehicle, and he tried drilling them, blunted drills and all sorts. He was scratching his head trying to file them, and I said, give them here, and I stuck the burr in, and like in seconds these carbide burrs had taken the hole out to the right size. So I love them, absolutely love them. I've got all sorts of different sizes and shapes, and they come in surprisingly handy. You sort of come across a little job and you think, how the hell am I going to do that? And you think, oh, I know, I'll get the burrs out. Really useful little tool. So we're getting there. We've got almost all the way there. As I said before, I think I really should have done the video on a much shorter word. But so I've never done it before, never been asked to make anything like this before, so it's tough. This is actually for someone, they've already got one, and it's to go out on the sort of like the curb side, the road side, nearer the road, on the edge of the property, because the one they've got is on the house, and people for some reason don't see it. So they want one out by the road, that when the utility vehicles turn up, or deliveries or whatever, you can actually see it, not drive straight past. We're almost there. Right, I think that's done it. You probably can't really appreciate how it smoothed that up, but it has. You can still see a few of the shaky marks, but I really wonder if they should have been a bit more shaky. Right, so next job, we're going to stick a bit of this 20 by 10, 3/4 3/8 on the back to strengthen it up. So I'm just going to go and cut that off. Good old saw. Almost indispensable, this saw. Doing anything up to about 4-inch, absolutely pucker job this is. If you want anything bigger, like big box or RSJs or anything like that, you really need a bandsaw, which is something I'd love but haven't got the room for. But I don't do much big work these days, so that will do me. I'm just going to take the rust off. It's only the loose stuff I'm taking off, because the paint actually sticks so much better on rusty iron once the scale is off. or once the rust's off, because it's taken the scale off. Sorry. So I'm not going to go too mad. I literally just want to take the flaky rust off, which is why you're not seeing many sparks, because I'm not actually cutting into the metal. I'm just cleaning it rather than grinding it. Taking it back to sort of black iron, I suppose. Dog's seen someone at the door, or someone out in the street. He's a little gobshite. Right, let's clean that up. You can see it's nice and clean now. Got the rust off. I'm going to stick it on the back, try and line it up nice, and clamp it on. Get it lined up. Right. These clamps, I had a lot of comments about them. I thought they were fairly common, but obviously I don't know if it's just that you don't get them in the States or whether you do, but people haven't seen them. They're called Bessie, or the company is called Bessie. Not actually sure where the company is from, but you can look up Bessie. These are the 4-inch, and they do an 8-inch, and they actually do all sorts of other clamps, but these are really, really good. They clamp hard, and they're really good for one-handed use once they've sort of worn in a little bit, because the jaw needs to slide up and down quite easily. I think we'll find another one for that middle there, so we've got 4 on it. Yeah, they're absolutely pucker. I use them all the time. I've had them for years. They're not cheap, but they are very, very good. Right, so we're clamped up. We're just going to run a few tacks along there, sort of 1/2 inch here and there, the base of most of the letters where they're most vulnerable. So we've got it set up on a little block to keep it level. And I'm just going to run a few tacks. A lot of bits of this I should have speeded up today, because this is going to be a pretty long video now. It's going to be about ½ an hour, I reckon. Whilst I'm doing this, nice view of my back. Something else a lot of people have asked about. Do I do the voice while I'm doing it or afterwards? Well, from this video you can probably tell I do it afterwards. And I get asked, why do I do it afterwards? Well, if I'm speaking whilst I'm doing it, for a start you probably wouldn't hear me because of the machinery. I've really turned the volume down on this video because it's very loud. That compressor is horrendously loud. And secondly, if I make a mistake on the audio whilst I'm doing the video and I've got to redo it, I've got to redo the video as well. But if I'm doing it afterwards, all I've got to do if I make a mistake is redo a little bit of video, a little bit of audio. So that's basically why. So I don't have to remake something that I've half made because I've made a cock up with the audio. There you go, just a few tacks all the way along, just to hold it in place. Alright, 5 O's out, something's going on. Right, so we're going to turn it over, or turn it up, and run a load of tacks along the bottom. Yeah, so basically that's why I do the audio afterwards, because it's so much easier just to redo a little bit of audio if I make a cock up. But if I'm halfway through making something and I make a cock up, I've really got to do the whole lot again just to keep continuity. And although my videos aren't brilliant, I do like to try and keep them fairly flowing and keep the continuity almost right. It's just one of those things I like to do. Right, so a little bit. There's all the ones along the top, or bottom as it is. I just want to clean them up. I'm just going to get the flap disc out again. Just run across them, clean them up, just so they don't look too obvious from the front when when it's mounted. Well, not mounted because it's going to be stuck in the ground. You know what I'm saying. I think the wine's getting to me. The wine's getting to me because I have already voiced over this video once, which is, let's say, about half an hour long, and I got to the end and it hadn't recorded. For some reason it was up there saying it was recording, but it hadn't. So we're doing a whole lot again. Never mind. Yeah, I'm still not decided about that font, you know. Whether it's should have been rougher. Yeah, see, it's okay. Right, I'm going to measure in about 8 inches, something like that, each end. Put some legs on it because it's going to be stuck in the ground at the front of the property. So let's see if we can find ourselves some round that we can stick on it. Alright, here's a bit of 10mm, I think it is, up on my rack, and as you can see it's gone as rusty as anything, and that is because it's not damp in my workshop, it's quite dry, but my steel is mounted above me in the sort of in the roof, or a lot of it is, and it's the fumes from the coke. I'm sure it is, because if you get up on a ladder or anything and put your head up where the fumes are trapped, it's really toxic, and I think it's very acidic, and it just rusts the steel like crazy. But it's a real dry rust, it's weird stuff. You can almost brush it off. So I'm just taking it off with the wire brush. That's something else, another tool I use loads of. You just take the flaky bits off, and it takes it back to sort of like a black iron. It's perfect for paint to adhere to. So I've marked 8 inches ish, something like that, and we're going to tack them on, see if we can get them sort of upright. I'm not going to bother with a square. By eye is good enough for me. You can see that is nowhere near upright, and that one probably won't be either. No, so let's give it a bit of a tweak. Eye it up, tweak it a bit more. Do the same with that one because that one's way out. I'm going to say it doesn't really matter. For a start, you won't see most of it once it's in the ground. You may even want to cut the legs off a bit. I don't know how soft their ground is. So I'm putting some decent legs on so it can go a fair way in the ground if necessary. And there's something else people have asked about, or not asked about, mentioned, that when I weld they instinctively stick their hand to their eyes. But it's a fairly common thing. Right, let's get rid of my magnet and have a little look at that. Of course you can't see it because the camera's too low. So let's stick it up in the vise and move the camera. Right, there we go. Yeah, undecided. I don't know, but it's going to have a coat of paint and then we'll see. So there it is, coat of red oxide. I will, once this is dry, do the words in white and probably the bit that it's sitting on in black, so it looks like it's sitting on a, on a line. Anyway, make up your own mind about the font. I think it should have been rougher and fancier, but there you go. I think the people will like it. It's plain, you can read it. So thanks for watching. See you on the next one.